Hey guys, I sure hope you enjoyed that intro as much as I did making it. It sure was a lot of fun. Today is finally the day we're going to start working on that Hohokam jar. It's part of Andy Ward's Ancient Pottery Challenge for this season. He sure picked out some good ones, but I'll be doing this one. I think replicating this one sure is going to be a lot of fun. Just look at how beautiful the original jar is. Oh man, I tell you. This is something spectacular, isn't it? Well, I'm definitely in for one real good challenge. This is a rather close and personal project for me. One I hadn't planned on attempting for quite some time, at least not with my skills. But to my surprise, it wound up as one of Andy's picks for this season. So I started my research on this jar as soon as Andy announced it in his video back in November. I'd like to give a super special thanks to Janelle at the Arizona State Museum. I wound up drawing up some blueprints for the jar that I'm going to be replicating. This is just a guide for me to follow along with. Hopefully my skills can get it somewhere in the ballpark to make it look like what I've drawn. At least that's part of the challenge of this for me. So it's time to take the old bull by the horn. I've got here all my tools that I'm going to be using. As you can see, it's nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy, but everything is super simple. I've got here a couple of cooking utensils that I've modified. I've got a variety of stones that are going to be used for the anvils. Oh, this is actually a smoothing stone. We'll put that right there. These are my smoothing stones. The only specialty tool I'm using right here is my pookie. I've got here my bad feeling clay. This is the best I could find. If you saw that first video I did on this when I was hunting for this stuff, boy, there was so much sand in it. And now that it's been sitting in a bag for about 2 days, whew, it's got a really nice aroma to it. Whew, let me tell you. So that's going to make working with this clay a little bit on the fun side. Other than that, this is the beauty about this type of pottery, is it really doesn't cost anything. Got this clay out in the wild for free. All these rocks I've kind of collected with my rock hounding. Now every time I go rock hounding, I'm always looking for a smoothing stone or an anvil stone. Forget the agates, guys. I'm looking for something for pottery, it seems these days. I don't know what's happening to me. So we're ready to get this started. I'm an expert by no means at this, guys, so I'm just going to keep pretty quiet throughout the rest of this video as I work through it. Hopefully you guys enjoy this, and hopefully you learn something from it. I know I always learn something every time I make something new from these. Every time, and that's another one of the special, wonderful things about this hobby. All right, let's get right to it. All right. This is looking good. At least so far. Ooh, kind of thick there, that coil. Oh man, guys, what a crazy night. I think I was up to 3 a.m. working on this thing. I just couldn't get to sleep. I wound up cleaning up some of the edges that were a little bit gnarly looking and had to address some spots before it began to dry. But it's coming along pretty darn well, I think. Oh, this is just so beautiful. It's never a good thing when you start losing sleep over it though. So all that's really left is I've got my polishing stones. I'm gonna go through and just kind of knock out some of these speed bumps in the pot and just go over it and make it look somewhat presentable. I'm not out to get a real shiny burnished look to it, but I just wanna make sure it looks nice, smooth, make sure we'll knock some of that temper in. You can see right in this area, some of that schist is already starting to pop through. The worst thing about drying for me is usually about day 3 to 4, right when it's just about to be totally dry, it starts to crack. Usually around the rim or the neck, and that's sometimes a temper related issue. Sometimes it may be some parts of it drying faster than the other. I've just got the worst luck. So I've got my fingers crossed. This isn't going to be the case for this guy, but this is a monster. This thing is huge. This is definitely the biggest pot I've ever made. Can release it from the mold and just look at this guy. This thing is crazy. Wow. All right, so I'm going to throw a towel over this thing now. All we've got left is to let this bad boy dry out. Oh, this jar turned out pretty well. I still can't get over that it actually dried without any complications. There might be some hope for this clay. It was surprisingly very easy to work with. I am really happy with the clay. It was a pain to really get it processed. I had to go through all that levigation. It had the most unpleasant odor you could imagine working with it. Almost needed the door open, but it was raining and it was humid out when I was making this. It's all dry now. Doesn't have that swampy smell to it that just raises your eyebrows every time you take a breath. I think it turned out pretty good. So the first thing I always like to do when I'm making a replica is to consult with the masters. Unfortunately, I'm not able to speak to any of the masters that lived so long ago, but I'm able to observe some of the legacy that they left behind. I have here these sherds, and these are some really beautiful Hohokam pieces right here. Oh, look how beautiful. This one's a real neat one. It's hard to tell, but this is actually the tail of a scorpion. Would have been the bottom of some kind of jar or oya. But you can see its little tail, and it's got a little leg there. Here's the start of another one. It would have been a whole series of them. Similar to these burden basket carriers, they like to really get detail with their painting. Really beautiful. So I've done a lot of experimenting with various types of hematite paint. We're going to be using that on this jar here. You could see that they definitely mastered it. There's nothing really fugitive. It sticks really well. But then you get sherds that were fugitive. Like this one right here. You can see the faint trace of a line that used to go through here. Would have been a nice red hematite line. But either through handling it or the years, it just rubbed right off. And it's barely noticeable that it even existed now. I've got here some paint that I've mixed up. Some hematite, some clay. And it's that 50-50 combination. I'm hoping this is going to work out pretty well. I've actually made some spindle whorls right here that I've been experimenting with. This used a little bit more clay than the hematite, and then this one used a little bit more hematite than the clay. So I'm nervous that this one's going to be the one that's probably going to rub off. But I like the way it applied over there. If you look closely, might not be able to pick it up in the camera, the clay, you can see a little bit of bumps, and you can see how it's raised a bit more. Plus it started to peel and chip there. I think I put it down too hard. I painted on both sides to test. I always do that with these spindles. And the last thing I'm gonna need is some good old yucca brushes to paint this bad boy with. I've cut these out, gave them a nice trim job. Some of them are short. I've got this one, this long brush right here. This is good for scripting. It's gonna help hold those straight lines. I've got a couple straight lines that I need to go through with. This one's gonna be great right here for the short strokes. So I put in about 6 to 7 hours just painting all those burden basket carriers. That sure was a lot of fun. And then I probably put in about another 2 hours doing all the line work on the thing as well. This is incredible. Just look at this. Oh, wow. I am like super happy with this pot right now. So all I've got left now is to fire this crazy thing. And that's where the real fun begins, because anything can happen with that. So before I can fire this thing, I've still got a few other things that I need to address. One of those is making a bunch of cover sherds. And I started doing that right now using some really junky clay that I've got. It's really prone to cracking, and I'm not going to use it for anything else. I said, you know what? Might as well. You can tell it already dried. I tried to patch it up, and there's just no way you can repatch this type of clay. It just likes to crack. I just need this to survive so I can put it over here to help with the firing eventually. So I've got about 3 more of those to make, possibly make another one. You never know, I may use those down the road for future projects too, but they're always handy to have. But yeah, whew, this was the most labor intensive, craziest jar. Oh man, this is so cool. I'm so glad you picked this jar out, Andy. This was a really fun challenge. I just had so much fun doing this. What a blast. So I hope to see you guys in the next video when I go about firing this crazy thing. I'm so excited to see what might come out of this. Oh boy, I just can't wait. Well guys, I really hope you learned something from this crazy video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and also consider hitting that subscribe button and help this channel grow. Thanks so much for viewing guys, and I hope to see you in the next video. Till next time.